Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to the conclusion of the G1 Climax by New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we will only be focusing on C Block. So the obvious question does tell who most likely will be making to the quarterfinals. We'll find out. And of course, NWA Powerrr is back. As you know, we're building up to the road to NWA 75. We do have a last chance match. Will Ella Envy get an opportunity for the NWA Women's World Tag Team titles against M95? Well, we'll find out soon enough. And of course, we got plenty other matches taking place. And of course, we got NXT. We have the North American title defended. We have Dominic Mysterio defend the title against Dragon Lee. The obvious question does tell, will the Dragon finally defeat Dirty Dom to remove the North American title? Well, we'll find out about that too. And of course, we got a couple of news updates that tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay, right here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. I hope you guys like this channel. Please subscribe to us if you enjoy hearing reviews from what pro wrestling events are out there for you. If you like this episode, please give us a like. And of course, give us a nice little comment. So, let's begin with our very first review. As I mentioned earlier, before at the start of this episode, New Japan Pro Wrestling are getting closer and closer to the conclusion of the G1 Climax. Now, we're only going to focus on the C Block. Now, the wrestlers from the D Block do have like preview matches. I don't feel that's important at the moment. I feel the 4 matches involved in the C Block are more important because who will be most likely to reach to the quarterfinals? Well, we'll find out. Now, our very first match, we have Mikey Nichols taking on Tomohiro Ishii. Now, these two guys are currently a bit of the bottom of the totem pole with just 4-4 in this. 4 with well, I'll get to that. But anyway, you probably can guess this match was going to be a hard-hitting match. I mean, Ishii is a beast when you guys think about it, but Ishii was able to pick up the win with the vertical drop brainbuster to finish off Nichols. However, none of these gentlemen were able to make it to the finals. They only had 4 points each, so that means they have about maybe 2 wins each, possibly what, 7-8 losses, I think. But yes, so basically they're out. Next match, we have Henare versus Tama Tonga. Now, I had a feeling this is going to be a good one. Now, as you guys know, you have Tama Tonga, who is a Tongan by heritage, and of course, Henare, who is a Maori by heritage. That's going to be like an epic warrior battle. Something that probably like in that one show from many years ago, The Deadliest Warriors. But in this case, I have to say it was a real interesting match. However, Henare has shown his demonstration why he is strong, but Tama Tonga's determination to reach the top. Now, remember, Tama Tonga last year made it to the quarterfinals, but he never, was it the finals or I don't know, anyway, but he was so close. But it took many times to try to pull off one move, and that one move was none other than the gun stunt, so picked up the win. However, Henare did not make the necessary points. He only had 4 points with just 2 wins. As for Tama Tonga, he only has 9 points. I believe he has a draw in one match, and that's the rest. Let's see, I think he had 8 points, so that makes it 4 wins. So that's pretty good to end it. But that doesn't conclude there yet, because we have the 2 remaining matches involved. Now we have Eddie Kingston versus David Finlay. I knew this match was going to be a ball buster match, because due to the fact we know David Finlay, he doesn't need help. All he needs is to be a savage. I mean, Eddie Kingston can be a savage when he has to be. He knows he has to win by being that. And I think that is a pretty good match. I mean, they did try to beat the crap out of each other, but there were moments when you thought they need to pick up the cover. I mean, they already been worn out as hell in order to pick up the pinfall. But it was, of course, Finlay with the Into Oblivion to pick up the win. And of course, he disrespected the New Japan Strong title by stomping on it. I think he feels that that title is nothing but a load of crap or whatever. I mean, he does have an opportunity to challenge for that belt, but I don't think that's his goal. I think his goal is to reach for the top title in New Japan, which is the IWGP World Heavyweight title. So basically, Eddie Kingston's out with only 8 points, while Finlay only has made 10 points. So he automatically makes it to the quarterfinals. Now, this next one is a very interesting one. This is a battle between 2 former teammates, Evil versus Shingo. Now, however, apparently there's been a stipulation on this. If this match ends in a double countout, due to the fact that Evil will like to take the fight outside, then of course Tama Tonga will advance into the quarterfinals in that. So that kind of puts it at tone. So basically, Evil and Shingo knows they cannot end this thing in a double countout outside of the ring, or in the time limit draw. So basically, now the stakes are high as ever. If that happens, that means both men will lose their chances to go to the top. So I think that's something they cannot afford. But of course, when it comes to Evil, he has the House of Torture helping him out whenever the ref's not watching. We saw Sho in Uger, who we haven't seen through the entirety of the tournament, but they showed up regardless. LIJ showed up. We had, of course, Tsuji, Bushi, and of course Hiramu. We thought that was enough, but of course Evil had the one last straw in order to be desperate to make it to the top, is by of course low blowing Shingo, and then of course applying Everything Is Evil, and that's it. So he makes it to the quarterfinals. But this is the interesting part. Now he has to face Finlay in this. Now keep in mind, Finlay does have 1 win over him during the tournament. But the obvious question is, like the saying, does lightning strikes twice? Can Finlay actually defeat Evil? Now I know Kevin Kelly, he does not like Evil. So he probably would say, I'd rather choose David Finlay over Evil. So if that's the case, then we'll see. But right now, the tournament is not over yet until we have a decisive winner for the qualifying match for the quarterfinals in the D block. So that will be on the next episode. So I think that's pretty much it with this one. Let's move on with NWA Powerrr. Alrighty then. NWA Powerrr. Now, as I mentioned earlier today, we're getting build up to NWA 75. So we got a lot of things that kind of implicates that specific thing. Now, our first match is called a last chance match. Now, as you know, a while back, the Pretty Empowered were the NWA World Women's Tag Team titles. But however, due to a Champions Series, apparently Misa Kate or Maddie, whoever it was that cashed it in, issued the challenge for these titles. And of course, Pretty Empowered, mostly consistent with Rox and Envy, only had those titles for about a couple of minutes until they were cashed in. So basically, they've been trying to get another opportunity for those tag titles. So they've been begging the NWA officials for a shot. So they decided to give them one last opportunity, saying, if you beat one of your opponents today for those. So basically, it's like this: Misa Kate, one half of the tag team champions. She will be facing Ella Envy. So, if Ella Envy is successful in defeating Misa Kate, then they'll get an opportunity at the NWA 75. However, if Misa Kate wins, then apparently they will not get another opportunity ever again. But of course, there'll be some dirty tricks coming from Ella Envy, coming with, Kylie, Roxy, whoever's right with her. They were going to try and interfere in one way, try to distract the ref. But of course, the ref was distracted, but he did not see what Ella Envy did. She rolled up Misa Kate, and then of course used her tights to keep her down on the bottom. So that was a bad advantage. But the obvious thing is, can they regain those tag titles at NWA 75? Well, we'll find out. Now, our next match, we have Cody James versus Anthony Andrews. Now, this was a very tough match. I mean, I know Anthony Andrews is a tough SOB. When it comes with him and his cousin AJ, aka the Country Gentleman, they're always up for a fight. But I have to say, Cody James put up a hell of a fight. But the one thing that was crazy, what the heck was CJ doing with him, with Cody James? I don't know. Not to mention, she tried to get herself involved in this match until, of course, the old saying goes, you got your hand got caught in the cookie jar. Apparently, CJ got caught, and the ref told her, get out. So basically, that screwed things up. But AJ was able to apply the, what was he called? A pinfall onto Cody James to win the match. So that's pretty good right there. Now, we do have two interviews from two separate people. Now, the first one is from the Southern Six, more consistently Kerry Morton, Alex Taylor, and Thrillbilly Cyrus. Now, next week, there's going to be a match with Kerry Morton and Alex Taylor to take on Joe Alonso and Colby Corino. Now, it's no secret to me that Colby Corino, his one goal in the NWA is to win the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. I think Kerry Morton is a bit more cocky and confident to believe that this is not going to happen. So they think that, Corino and Joe Alonso are nothing but jobbers. But we'll see what happens next week. However, since it's the Southern Six, Thrillbilly Cyrus is still not over the fact that he is still going to proceed for the NWA National Championship that was vacant by EC3. And of course, this was a title that he's been gunning for. And now he said that Poyo Del Mar will not be by his side. He feels Poyo cost him the match. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm just going to wait and see on that one. Now, our next interview is EC3 and Jordan Clearwater. Now, it was very unusual to see EC3 along with Jordan Clearwater. But however, EC3 kind of gave him a little pep talk, like what to say, what to think, what he needs to do, and looks like it paid off. And of course, EC3 sounded like a very proud dad, like saying, thank you, you did exactly what I said, and it worked. Now, our next match, we have Magnum, Musl, Dak Draper, and Mims taking on the Savages, Bulletproof, Blake Troop, and Jack Stain. I thought this match was going to be a very interesting one because, Mims has been hurt already before, but he came back. I have to say he did a pretty good job. But however, Mims was the one who picked up an amazing win when, of course, Troop was about to jump on top of him, but hit the corner turnbuckle, and boom, picked up a win by applying a strong slam onto him, and Mims picked up the win. And the Savages are beside themselves. But however, when things got a little exciting to see the Magnum Musl win, it appears Jack Stain made a beeline to Tim Storm. Now, Tim Storm is currently not wrestling. He's been commentary. We don't know what Jack Stain's problem is. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a match between those two at NWA 75. But we'll see what happens till then. Now, during a little fun skit by Danny Deals for DLZ, he went to talk to Daisy Kills. Apparently, he heard word that he wants to have his thoughts about, does Talos has what it takes to take on Judas? Daisy believes that, yeah, he does. He thinks that he's more stronger than him, that Judas doesn't have nothing on him. But we'll see when we get there as well. Our next match, we have Odinson versus Zion with the Z, along with Austin Idol. Now, you probably would have thought in this match that Zion would have won easily, but however, Austin Idol passed on a chair, and of course, onto Odinson, got whacked by it. Zion got disqualified. I don't know what's the deal with this, but it is what it is. Now, before our main event, our next participant is Vampiro for an interview. As you know, he hasn't forgotten what the Brothers of Construction started, so that kind of sets it in. But let's move on to the main event, which features Vampiro teaming with La Rebelión, Bestia 666, and Mecha Wolf to take on the Brothers of Construction, Yabo and Rufo, along with a guy named Mario Pardua. I have to say, there was a good moment where Pardua looks like he was embracing being a clown, but however, it was Vampiro with the Michinoku driver that picked up the win. However, the obvious thing is the La Rebelion's days are numbered as we get closer to the NWA 75, putting their tag titles on the line. Well, we'll see when we get there as well. And I believe we covered that up with NWA. Let's move on with our final review, and I believe this one is NXT. Alrighty, NXT, our final review, so let's get started. It opened up with Rey Mysterio and Dragon making their arriving to the NXT venue, and as you know, they're a little chit-chatting, but however, Rey Mysterio told Dragon Lee to give an ass whooping to his son, so that kind of sets it all, you know. So we'll see how that goes in our main event. However, our next match, our opening match, is Axiom versus Mustafa Ali. Now, this match was set upon the ones who most likely will like to challenge for the North American title. So basically, certain wrestlers are now putting their names out there to see they want to be the ones to face Dominic Mysterio for the North American title. However, Mustafa Ali, who has for 6 years been disrespected, has shown a lot of attitude. But however, during the match, we saw Scripps and of course Lima and Price making their appearance. I think they're trying to stop, trying to make sure that Axiom does not fulfill what he wants to do. But of course, he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for Mustafa Ali, who tried to take off Axiom mask in a desperation way in order to do that, and tossing him out, and then of course applying the 450 splash. But now, we haven't heard yet if there's going to be a #1 contenders match, but I'm sure that Mustafa Ali will stop at nothing to get what he wants, which is a shot of the North American title. Now, about a week ago, we did witness Schism, who's been frustrated about the recent attack, the humiliation they suffered. 2 of its members attacked. The Dyad were 100% convinced that it was the Creed brothers, but Ava Reigns believed that it wasn't them. But however, the Creed brothers showed up saying they were on vacation, and they made it perfectly clear that they're not in Florida. So Schism spent much of the entire time causing all kinds of hell, beating up anybody. I mean, look, they took out El Kilimanjaro and whoever else. Then later they attacked Tank Ledger and Hank Walker, since they are somewhat in the same page as the Creed brothers. And then of course they've been interrogating the D'Angelo family due to the fact that they have challenged them before. So they've been going on and off about that. But the Dyad does have one thing in mind, is the tag titles. Now, our next match, we have Kelani Jordan taking on Blair Davenport. Now, and recently we saw how, what's her name? Dana Brooke has decided that she wants to change her direction. Instead, she wants to bring out the killer instinct. So she decided to put Kelani Jordan in a much difficult situation, facing Blair Davenport, who has that killer instinct already. But apparently that wasn't enough. It was a knee strike by Blair Davenport to pick up the win. But of course, Davenport wanted to finish off Jordan off, and Dana Brooke made the save. But it seems that Brooke is not happy how she hasn't picked up the killer, that Jordan is unable to pick up the killer instinct. So we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks on that. Now, Von Wagner had a little interview that he'd set upon. As you know, he was been humiliated by Bron Breakker, making fun of him. But he did make a promise that he will put him through a table. That's the day we're probably going to have to wait and see. Now, our next match, this is for what people say this is the fake NXT Cup. So basically is Noam Dar versus Tyler Bate. But I can give you the details. Bate won the second round. Dar picked up the fifth round and the fourth round, and then the fifth round goes to Bate. So basically, Tyler Bate is the new NXT champion. However, they've been trying to, the metaphor, have been trying to get that cup back. But however, I have to say Nathan Frazier does pick up a good win. Basically, put up good negotiations in this capacity. Let me pull up the notes on that part. I know I wrote them down. Yeah, here it is. So basically, this is what was happening. Basically, the real cup is, in fact, Nathan Frazier, the one that he has. So he came up with the proposal. He says, wait, just give him back the title, and how about this? Dar, you and me, this is the real cup that I took. So how about this? You and me in a match for the real one. The real actual cup. So basically, Dar was compelled, but however, Legend, Jackson, and Mensa were like saying, look, let's think about this. Let's talk about it. So basically, they know they want the real cup back. So that kind of goes in a very interesting way to put it up. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, our next interview, Dragunov, as you know, he has not, he still had some unfinished business with Trick Williams, so that kind of sets it up. But however, that wasn't even over. Dragunov did had a little promo talk about him, and of course, Trick Williams had a lot to say, you know, and he said that he would like to challenge him at NXT Heatwave. That's in 2 weeks' time. So I think that's going to be well prepared for him. Now, speaking of Trick Williams, apparently now that his buddy, Carmelo Hayes, has a lot of targets on his back. Basically, Dijak wants a shot and looks like Wesley. So basically, now the pressure is on. But it was later foretold that Lee and Dijak will face each other for a #1 contendership spot. So we'll see where they're going to go. Now, apparently, as I mentioned before, with the Schism going on a Rampage, Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey were on the verge to challenge Hank Walker and Tank Ledger, but it seems that's not. But Dempsey was saying that, oh, they got injured a lot. Like, they were attacked because we got a bunch of knuckleheads looking for the Creed brothers. But however, Damon Kemp feels that he is in the same level as, of course, Dempsey and Gulak. However, Briggs and Jensen decided, you know, that they're going to step up, saying, I will be your opponents. And of course, Dempsey and Gulak had no problems at all accepting their challenge. Now, Rey Mysterio, as you know, was in the backstage getting to know certain people. He had a little nice chit-chat with the former NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne Perez. But as you know, the story about Rey becoming an underdog, giving a great words of advice to Thea, who's been pretty much upset what happened at Great American Bash, losing, gave her some good words of wisdom, saying that she has the heart that she is, that she has to be more patient, but the most important, she needs to believe in herself. Of course, you know, she said on Twitter that Rey Mysterio was one of her heroes. So I think this will help her out, as I believe Thea has to work her way back up to prove once again why she deserves to become the NXT Women's Champion. And then, of course, Chase Owen, Andre Chase, and Duke Hudson showed up, impressed that she got some advice from her. But Thea hasn't let go of the fact that of the towel situation took place at the Great American Bash. So that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Now, our match that we have is Bron Breakker versus Von Wagner. I thought this match was going to be a bop, but I felt like it wasn't like that. I think the idea was Bron Breakker winning the match, but that wasn't it. It gave an opportunity for Von Wagner to show that he's not messing around. So he did put him on the table, but this thing between Breakker and Wagner is not even over yet. Now, as you know, Dominic will be facing Dragon Lee for the defending his title, but Rhea Ripley, as you know, being by his side, was also confronted by Lyra Valkyria and all this other stuff. Seems like things were now going downhill between them, so we'll see where that gonna brings out. Now, our next match featured. Hold on. Our next match is Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen taking on Gulak and Dempsey. You probably would have thought this match was going to be good. I thought so too. But out of nowhere, that sleazeball of Damon Kemp wants to prove his worth to Gulak, and Dempsey paid off. It did allow for, of course, what's his name? Dempsey to apply the bridge onto Jensen to pick up the win. It appears that now Damon Kemp proven why he's worth everything. So we'll see about that. Now, our next match features Ivy Nile taking on Kiana James, but things have turned to worse. Apparently, the Schism are around because, as you know, they're looking for answers. Where are the Creed brothers? However, the distraction cost Ivy Nile the match for Kiana James to pick up the win. Kiana James had no clue what was going on, so she made the smart move to leave. But however, the Schism are demanding Ivy Nile to tell them where is the Creed brothers. But luckily, the family, Tony D'Angelo and Stacks, showed up with crowbars, and of course, Ivy Nile what's her name? Ava Reigns was saying this is not their fight. The fact is this: if Ivy Nile did not know where the Creed brother is, that means she did not know. But of course, the Schism's not going to take her word for it. But I believe that Tony D'Angelo and Stacks are doing the right thing. I know that recently in the past that the family said something positive towards Ivy Nile in the past, but we'll see how that turns out. I wouldn't be surprised if Ivy Nile becomes a member of the family. That is something that will be cool to watch. Now, a couple weeks ago, we saw a bit of the family dissension between Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. Apparently, things were not going well, but they've been texting back and forth, talking about their grandfather, like saying that it was them who he created. But the obvious thing is, what would he do if he was still alive? What they would do. So I think now they have to take it back further to their family and see how this is going to roll out with them. Now, as you know, Tiffany Stratton had a good match against the Hell, but it appears she doesn't think that there's anybody who's willing to take her on, so she's going to go out on a shopping spree. But the obvious thing is, who's going to step up now? I mean, there's plenty others. I'm like thinking there's possibly Lyra Valkyria could be the next potential opponent, but we'll see when we get there. Now, Trick Williams, as you know, he already set up the whole thing with the NXT Heat Wave, and of course, Gulak, Kemp, and Dempsey wanted to give him some advice, but he wasn't having it, so that sort of sets it up. Now, our main event is the North American title, Dragon Lee versus Dominic Mysterio. Of course, Ray is at the corner of Dragon Lee, but of course, like every single time we see Rhea Ripley will ensure that the match stays with Judgment Day. Once again, she used the belts, one belt as a way to cover, and the other to make sure that they take down Dragon Lee, which it was successful. However, Rey Mysterio was trying to confront Dominic, but Rhea Ripley got involved. Out of nowhere, Lyra Valkyria got in her face, and it kind of went to a different direction. I wouldn't be surprised if Lyra Valkyria is not after the W, but more like proving she's the real badass now that Rhea Ripley is no longer that person that she was once. So we'll see how it goes next week. I'm sure we'll probably build up for Heat Wave soon enough. And I think that's pretty much it with NXT. Let's move on with our final thing we're going to do is news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates here. Our very first one is the GCW, what's been added. For the homecoming event that takes place on August 19th and the 20th, has announced that Violento Jack will make his return. He'll participate in both days. And as for the Crush Up event that will take place on September 10th, it was announced that Maki Ito will be in action to take on Killer Kelly. I think that's going to be a really fun match. Now, as you know, we already have the Multiverse United taking place, for whom the bell tolls. That will take place on the 20th of August. They announced that Doiki will be in action to take on Sami Callihan. West Coast Pro has announced for the West Coast 5 event that will take place on October 14th. The Motor City Machine Guns make their return to the West Coast. Wrestling Revolver announced for the Redacted Forever that will take place on the 2nd of September. The World Tag Team titles will be defended. Second Gear Crew defend the titles against Motor City Machine Guns and a partner of their choosing. DEFY has announced for the Violent Minds there's been a replacement. Leo Rush was supposed to be in action to take on Judas Icarus, but he ended up injured. It was now announced that Titus Alexander will be his replacement. All Japan, the All-Star Junior Festival USA on the 19th has announced that Starboard Charlie is now our 30th entrant into the show. I can't wait to see how that rolls out. And finally, All Japan has announced for their upcoming event on the 19th of August. Let me pull up that one real quick. Here it is. They announced a match that will feature members of Bulk Orchestra from GLEAT, consistent of Ryuichi Kawagami, Tamura Hayato, Cheik Shibatani, and Galeno del Mar. They take on the members of the All Japan roster that consisted of Yoshitatsu, Asushi Oyagi, Rising Hayato, and Ryo Inoue. So that's going to be a very interesting. We know there's been interaction with All Japan and GLEAT recently, so that's going to be a good one. And I think that's pretty much it right now, what we have for our news updates, so let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, for those who may or may not have me on podcast, you may find me on Spotify. The podcast is called DWZ Podcast with J-Rod here. Our next subject that we'll be talking about, I already did this on the DWZ discussion video about Yuri. I decided I want to do it again, talk more about her as well, tell more about the story and more on the situation with Kairi, and anything else. Also 2 events, one by the Evolution Girls and Schism, and many other things that I definitely will be talking about. I will also be doing soon another Unagi Sayaka watch. I'm just getting that together as soon as possible. I will be doing a DWZ discussion video about Kairi. I know people are still stunned and shocked about the recent event of her making her return to WWE, but we'll be talking more about that as well in that discussion. And then finally, for our next episode, we will feature more of the New Japan G1, where we only focus on the D block matches only. We do have AEW Dynamite. We can't wait to see how that's going to go, and I'm thinking about maybe reviewing the much recent Stardom events that took place. Not the one that just took place on the 8th. Hasn't been uploaded yet on the Stardom World, but we'll see about that. I think that's pretty much it for now. So I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day.